try to end the show with some laughs and hilarity, but unfortunately, we have to start with some absolute sincerity. So, Marcus, you said the Coast Guard have formally postponed or suspended was the word you used, suspended the search for Shad Gaspard, and the LAPD are now the sole entity that I'm aware of currently out searching for Shad. For those of you who don't know, and I don't know how you don't know at this point if you're listening to this podcast, because literally even the mainstream sports outlets are picking this up. Shad and his son were at a LA County beach on, what was it, Sunday?
Yeah.
And, or Sunday or Monday, I forget which. It's Tuesday, and I didn't realize that
Yeah.
until like fucking
Yeah.
2 hours ago. So he was there with his son. A bunch of people were in the water, and a riptide kind of came up and took a bunch of people out. And unfortunately, what happens with riptides is, it has the ability to suck you underneath the waves and haul you out. And for Shad, he hadn't gone under the water, but he was stuck in the riptide and he couldn't swim out. A lifeguard was able to get out to him and his son. His son was a few feet in front of him, and Shad screamed at the lifeguard to get his son first, so that's exactly what the lifeguard did. By the time someone was able to come back out to get Shad, he had disappeared from sight. And at this moment, there has been no recovery of Shad Gaspard as of this moment. I'm using his wrestling name because that's how we all knew him, and I feel like that's the appropriate way to address the situation at the moment. It's horribly tragic at this point. There's not a lot of places where he could have ended up where he would have been fine. Like there's parts of California, especially down at the Mexican border and up in the Palo Alto area, where there's a lot of kind of caves and higher sided ranges on the coast where you can grab onto the rocks and hold on. But this is mostly just beach where he was at. So it's not one of those things where he found his way into a little cove and he just couldn't swim out of it. And now they're going to find him a day or two later. There's no coves that we're aware of, that I'm aware of, where he could have ended up. So at this point, it's kind of assumed that this is no longer a rescue, but a recovery operation. But that hasn't been formally announced yet. But when the Coast Guard stops looking for you, that's pretty much an indication that they don't expect to find you alive. I'm hoping that's not the case. I think we're all hoping that's not the case, because by all accounts, Shad Gaspard, kind of like Sean Davari and so many other guys in the industry, is a genuinely good dude who's done a lot of good things. And if his last effort in this world was him saving his son, I think there are far worse ways to go in this world than making sure your kid's okay. As a parent, that I think is what everyone wants, is to make sure your kid is okay. So I don't know what this is going to look like in a day. I don't know what it's going to seem like in a day or two. The hopes that he's holding on to a piece of a broken ship somewhere in the Pacific. I'm still holding out hope for that, but that just doesn't seem likely. So I think people need to brace for this. And the thing that I think is really heartbreaking is when guys pass away, whether they're old or young or whatever, or girls or whatever. There's always people who are like, well, I wish I'd known them better, or I didn't really know them, or they're just such a sweetheart, and it really doesn't feel like there was much of a personal connection. Not that there needs to be to mourn someone. I never met Kobe Bryant. I wasn't even a fan of him, and when he died, I was like, shit, that rocked my world, and I wasn't even a fan. But seeing how this whole situation with Shad and his possible demise, and seeing how guys who are genuinely just rocked by it. John Morrison and Chris Masters were good friends with him, especially Chris Masters. That they were very good friends for a long time. They were at the beach today, just kind of. I don't even know. I don't even think they knew what they were doing at the beach, but kind of in this place where you're both mourning and still hopeful. I don't think you need to have a reason. You're kind of just doing something, and I get that.
All you can.
I do. Yeah, it's all you can do. It's really all you can do. Like you're just trying to do something, and that desire to be close to someone or someone's last spot. That's a very powerful feeling for a lot of people. And they're not the only ones. Beth Phoenix traveled with him for years. You know, a lot of people are just devastated by this. And the amount of people that are devastated, I think, kind of gives you a good indication on just how many people he had such a good rapport with. And that's hard to do. That's hard to have. Look at me. I'm an asshole. I have like 12 friends. That's it. Like, if I have a funeral tomorrow, it's going to be like 4 people there, and like 3 of them are there to make sure I'm dead. They're going to poke me with a stick. Yeah, all right, no, he's dead. You sure he's dead? Yeah, I'm sure he's dead. Poke him again. So, you know, this is even more unfortunate because he is a genuinely good person. Like, the only silver lining is at least his son's okay. And I would hope that who's ever covering these stories would also keep in mind of everyone else. Because even if it's just 6 people that got kept up in this, I would hope that Shad, not that I want him to be gone. Like, please don't take that what I'm saying. Like, we know what's already happened, but I don't know the rest of the information. So I hope that Shad's the only one who has been taken out to see by this, because if there's more than just Shad and no one's bringing up other people, I don't need names. I just want people to understand, like, this was a thing that affected a few people, but we're only really hearing about Shad and his son. And I don't know if that's because he's a celebrity or what, but I do hope that, no one else was tragically affected by this as well, because these things can be harrowing.
Yeah, man. I mean, echo everything you said. It's truly just tragic, man. I remember being on Twitter yesterday, and I saw one person tweet about it, and then just the storm of it just kind of came shortly thereafter, and it's just heartbreaking, man, because um, it kind of takes you back a little bit, obviously, to the beginning of the year. This whole year seems like, I mean, this whole year has been trash, but um, it takes you back to when you were getting that news about, the helicopter crash with Kobe. And, you just hear it, and then you're stunned, and then you get more information, and it just continues to get heartbreaking. I mean, like you said, the silver lining here, if any can be drawn, is that his son got to safety, and
Mm-hmm.
appears that he had a lot to do with that because, I mean, it could have been a situation where they got him and not his son. Like the roles could be reversed.
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing
and
with
that could be, yeah,
Well, I'm sorry. The thing with lifeguarding is they don't teach you to save the women and children first. They teach you to save the first one you can get to. So that says
yeah,
to me that Shad was ahead of his son towards the beach, and the lifeguard was told to swim a little bit further out to get the kid. So,
yeah,
you know, like I said, we all got to go someday, and if you have to go out saving a kid, if there's not a spot for you next to some pearly gates, man, then there is no heaven. Honest to
yeah.
God.
And this is one of those crazy things because like you said, it's and again, just going back to the COVID thing for a minute, it obviously it was huge loss, but then just how it happened hurts even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And with something like this, like there's a potential possibility if things are, because you want to still hold out hope, even if the scenario is looking bleak about the hour. You want to hold out hope that at least if it has reached that point that they can recover, so the family can have something,
Mm-hmm.
because the potential that they don't, and that's even worse because then you're really kind of just left without anything, because it could be one of those situations where we watch movies all the time, and it's, the day and age that we live in, a lot of these sci-fi things that we witness, and these fantasies we in these seem like these impossible stories look like they're becoming more and more close to our reality. So if something were to happen where time went by and he didn't recover, but he ended up somewhere, um, where they never got to him. This family is left completely upended, heartbroken, mind just wandering every day, and they, not being able to say goodbye or having something to visibly mourn. That's an even more ominous thing looming right now. So again, people just continue to pray and hope. Uh, like I said, even though it looks, bleak, we've seen, miracles happen before. You just want that in this situation. Like you said, we didn't know him from a can of beans, anything like that, but he seemed like a good person. When you lead this world, it's not oftentimes people won't remember you for what you did, but how you made them feel. It
Mm-hmm.
seemed like he had a great rapport with people, like you said, and very heartbreaking what JTG posted on his Twitter. And I think this was probably around the time, if not the day that we got the information that Kobe had passed, as well as those nine others. Um, just telling them like, look, man, if I leave this world tomorrow, you my brother, you always be my brother. I'm gonna love you long after this life. And then just that exchange is beautiful, and it's crazy that it takes stuff like that, because we probably need to say stuff like that between the people we care about more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's stuff like that that just kind of shines a light on who that guy was. And yeah, like you said, it's just sad because as days keep going by and hours of the long days, it's just continues to get sadder, man. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're gonna pivot from sad to disturbing. We didn't talk about this last week, but we should. It's so fucking dumb. So apparently, CZW is selling their parts of their library off for some type of softcore pornography reclassification.
wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, it's a thing, Marcus. It like I said, it's a thing. So, um, the company's recently been running pay-per-views featuring matches from previously held CZW events. Several pay-per-view events featuring women's wrestling matches have been given titles such as CZW Girls, Top Heavy and Tough, and Hot and Sweaty Combat. Gotta love CZW. CZW's been a trash organization since they debuted in 1999. At least I think it was 99. They tried to rival ECW, and a lot of what they did, like all the things they did, and all the things that they were trying to emulate and have since then, have been directly inspired by ECW. There was a spell in like 2005 and 2006 when CZW started to have some real credibility because they were doing a lot of cross promotional work with Ring of Honor. They're both Philly based promotions, but CZW has always been about blood and guts and violence and sex and drugs and all that. And DJ Hyde, who I think is the owner of CZW, has not really been someone who really has a lot of class. Shocking. So it's kind of one of those things where this story was, as Thanos would say, inevitable. It was only a matter of time before something like this finally happened, and here we are. So following up with that, the pay-per-view events have 4 hard-hitting matches: Shanna versus Hanya, Sassy Stephanie versus Tessa Blanchard, Cherry Bomb versus Leva Bates, and Athena versus Nia Burla. And then another one called Hot and Sweaty features Dollhouse versus Chicks using Nasty Tactics. That's a tag team match. Veda Scott versus Solo Darling. Hanya, who I think is the Howling Huntress, versus Leva Bates. The the pay-per-view events are compilations of older matches which performed as regular wrestling, but by CZW standards. But the consensus is that the names make the shows sound more like softcore pornography than hardcore wrestling. The pay-per-view names sparked backlash, which has been growing over the past week, with CZW Hall of Famer Lufisto speaking out about this first in a YouTube video, and former CZW champion Ricky Shane Page tweeting, I publicly bash CZW, but this is just, I never publicly bash CZW, but this is just terrible. I'm embarrassed that my name is attached to these pay-per-views. I doubt I have any legal right to get my name off there. This is gross. The CZW office should be ashamed. I'm sorry to all the ladies who have to deal with this. Lufisto said that when she called CZW to complain, they told her it was outside of their control because they licensed the content to a third party. In a statement released Monday by CZW, they've said 2 years ago CZW entered into a licensing agreement with a national media distribution to license CZW and WSU footage. WSU is Women's Superstars Uncensored, or Wrestling Superstars Uncensored. I forget what they call it now. It's an all-women's promotion. The company, that company has the right to utilize the footage without limitation. They have repackaged and renamed shows as it is their right to do so. Our athletes, regardless of gender, are just that, athletes whom we are proud of and appreciate. We stand behind the action in all of our footage. But that has only inflamed the controversy with Kimberly tweeting, and I'm certainly never signed an agreement where giving you the right to sell my intellectual property, nor did any of the women you're blatantly disrespecting, or how you told us you wouldn't book us if you wouldn't fuck us. Yep, Marcus, it's becoming that. It's about time the harassment got exposed, Jordan Grace tweeted. Just so everyone is aware, there are so many women already speaking to lawyers about this, as releases were not signed to authorize licensing footage for profit and distribution. She also tagged Lise, adding, "I could fuck any of you." I read this tweet. This was a quote she was saying to Lufisto that DJ Hyde said to Jordan Grace. Just so we're clear, this isn't something that she's saying to Lou. This is something that DJ said to Jordan. Quote, "I could fuck any of y'all anytime I want." And then she asked Lufisto if that sounded familiar. They're not the only ones, as many former CZW talent have been speaking out with personal grievances or in solidarity with their colleagues. It looks like things are going to continue to heat up. So first and foremost, when you agree to shoot footage for somebody, you don't need to sign a release. If you are working voluntarily and you know there are cameras there, they can use the footage any way you want. That's just how it is. If they agreed to be shot in any way, shape, or form in front of a camera, whether there's a legal document there or not, they have no case. I'll use one, Marcus, that I'm sure you've seen. I'm sure you've seen an episode of Cops before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure we all have. Now, despite the fact that a lot of these dudes are white trash, that are just like, my brother-in-law sleeping with my sister, and I'm just all like, sir, you on cocaine? No, I don't touch cocaine. That's the devil's drug. I'm a meth. Fair enough. Despite the fact that they all look like your white, racist, redneck neighbors.
That's the devil's ass powder.
We only use things that are grown naturally, like the meth. Despite those people being those people, like you're not sure if they have 4 cars on their front lawn burnt out or if they were the ones who burnt the cross on their neighbor's yard. That's who you deal with on Cops. They still get a right to sign away their likeness. However, there is no immediate expectations that when the police are called, there's going to be a TV and media company following them. So they have to, by law, get these people to sign off on appearing on the show. And to the best of my knowledge, they do get paid something. I think they get paid like a few $100 for their likeness so that they can be aired in syndication and in perpetuity. But as these wrestlers were paid to perform on a televised event or a recorded event, there is no expectations beyond that initial agreement that they should be compensated for being licensed. Because technically they're not being licensed. The property in which they provided wrestling for is being licensed. And that's where the problem lies. Now, CZW will probably end up having to alter some things on how they produce and market these pay-per-views, because I don't buy it 100. I don't. Marcus, this whole third-party bullshit is the mega conglomerate. I got hacked of the media world. It's being handled by a third party. Were you drunk and tweeting and then you got hacked? Who are you, John Jones? Kurt Angle? What the fuck?
Yes, it very much reminds me of the severely grayed, loophole-ish. Then it comes out almost like one of them damn um, Thanos portals that WWE uses for the independent contractor thing.
Oh. On your left, you're fired. God damn, Sam Wilson. That's a dick move. So I don't think they have much of a case. Obviously, these kinds of things need to be litigated and handled in a court of law. But I'm telling you, if you agreed to a pay to appear in front of a camera of some sort to do something for this company, you are agreeing, in essence, to let them use that footage however they want. So it doesn't matter if you have a contract. It doesn't matter if you agree to a licensing deal. That's how it is. It sucks, but also these are things that I feel like 40-year-olds should know by now. Like Lufisto's 38. She's been in the business a while. I don't know if she's 38. I'm assuming she's 38. She's not a young chick anymore. She is a grizzled chicken. I don't know if Lufisto has ever had a law degree or has ever taken any classes on contract law. But when I talk about and I haven't done it much, but when I talk about reform of education, I'm always about why the fuck are we teaching people fucking astrophysics in high school? They should be learning about law, they should be learning about contract negotiations, and they should be learning about money management. Those three things should be in every high school curriculum. I don't give a damn if you have to cut out algebra 2. Once we learn how to fucking do 2 + 2, we're good.
Those things don't make you a viable employee. They make you a potential boss.
Right? I don't think that's why they don't teach it. I think they don't teach it because American education system is pretty much dependent on, well, in the 1890s, this is what we taught. Boss, it's 2020. Time to update the literature. It's okay.
For the most part, they're telling you it's a bunch of pieces to a puzzle that's gonna make a lot of sense once it's together, and then you put it together and like, okay, I'm missing a lot of shit here.
Like, listen, I can go to college. I can ace college, but I don't know how to cook meats. How do I open up a checking account? I can tell you what the inverse radical of a negative integer is. I don't even know if that's a thing. Those are just math terms I remember.
With a lot of stored knowledge without any purposeful practicality, because you can't apply anything or half of what you know.
Why do you think I do a wrestling podcast? I want at least 3/4 of my intelligence to go someplace. Because 3/4 of my intelligence is completely worthless nonsense. I make myself laugh. So the CZW thing is, but it's trash, but it's also like these people stick syringes through one another's cheeks for wrestling entertainment. Y'all don't have a right to be pissed anymore. If you didn't realize that this company would screw you in this way, then you are not just naive, you're fucking dumb. Like, I have no sympathy for any of these women because CZW is not some, new fly-by-night organization. Their standards and practices have not changed in 21 years, Marcus. This is like saying, well, I didn't know the WWE could be so callous and fire me during a pandemic. Motherfucker, they ran a show the night Owen Hart died. Correction, they continued running a show the night Owen Hart died. He died in the middle of that ring. Not technically, he died on the way to the hospital, but I digress. That's who this company is. How do you not know this by now?
They also punished a murderer in terms of company, I guess, notoriety, because they jumped the gun after he committed his crime.
Yeah, they highlighted the acts of a murder, and the worst part is the information about Benoit doing the things that he did were readily available before they ran that show. It's even worse in hindsight.
It wasn't their fault though, Chad.
It wasn't Vince McMahon's fault. It was the Democrats. Vince McMahon's a fucking idiot. Seriously, that company should. Oh my god, that company is lucky to be in the place that it is. It really is. I guarantee you, if and when Triple H and Stephanie take over, they're gonna make so much more money with that company than Vince ever could, because Vince is a giant fucking idiot. He's not a good booker. He's never been a good eye for talent. He's always been terrible.
And most of the success has been luck.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing with like the Taker thing, just a litany of other things that are come his way. But I mean, yeah, the two of them all, they're not going to be sitting in the office, damn near immaculating over themselves because a guy can throw up on demand.
No.
So. And also, I mean, with this situation, the CZW situation, you're far more versed in terms of the business end of this. But I mean, I would imagine, just like you're saying, I mean, they kind of signed the contract. They knew what they were getting into. It's not like they just was the Christian version of a presentation of wrestling
Well,
from the outset.
I want to be
Yeah,
clear. I do not believe anyone signed a contract, but the thing with
yeah,
contracts is a written form of piece of paper is only so necessary to achieve something. There are a lot of states in the United States that will agree upon that if you agree in a handshake agreement, that is just as capable or liable for, or not liable, but just as certified, if you will, as a contract as a written contract is. If there's an exchange of goods and services via an exchange of cash or a paycheck of some sort, you don't need a contract because you have told them, listen, this is what I'm going to pay you for, and you're going to do this match for me. I'm going to record it, and then you're done for the day. That's
yeah,
what they all agreed to. Now, I don't think there's a
yeah.
contract for any of them, but if one of them, like let's say if Lou Fisto never made a dime in CZW and she was doing it pro bono because she liked DJ Hyde, she would have a case,
Yeah.
but no one else would. So that's the issue that these women are going to have to prove is that they were either manipulated, lied to, or deceived. But when a judge hears that you agreed to be recorded and now you're upset with how the recordings are being used, they're going to throw the case out, especially
Yeah,
once the money has changed hands.
yeah. I was just gonna say. I mean, at that point, it seems like, I mean, that would be a instance that, I mean, obviously that gets used, but I would imagine that the whole handshake deal is rarely used because at that point it's gonna boil down to a back and forth about he said, she said.
Mm-hmm.
They said one and they did another, and because you can't logistically prove that, you know, like you said, stuff will get thrown out. So, but yeah, and I also wonder. I mean, this might be like a minute point, but like, would it be a thing if it wasn't necessarily, because obviously, and the whole thing, like, this is getting used now in more of a sexual manner than I guess it would normally be.
Yeah, the changing of the presentation I think will be an interesting debate, but I think
Yeah,
ultimately because no one was asked to do anything for these shows that they didn't agree to, they don't really have a case. Because, and here's the thing, like when people start arguing about this stuff, what they don't realize is that there's a complexity to the law. A lot of people just think that every situation is a one-to-one comparison. We know about the young man who was shot in, what is it, Georgia, Alabama, fucking white
yeah,
hoodness.
yeah,
Now people are like, well, we need to change the laws. Okay, but the problem when you start saying things like that, what ends up happening is it's like a tower of Jenga, Marcus. You take out one part of one law, but you don't realize that that's going to affect 116 different laws at the same time. So it's not very easy to change laws or to affect change in that regard. So when you sit down with this specific case, you think to yourself, well, it should be obvious. If you sign up for wrestling, it should be presented as wrestling. Okay, but here's all the things you're not realizing. Here's all the things that you don't have a broad enough scope to realize would affect by this. How would this affect other wrestling? The whole thing in California when they passed that new bill that forces all employees to be considered employees and not independent contractors. What people are cheered about that. That sounds like a great fucking gig, right? Well, now anyone who worked for Uber or DoorDash or any one of those delivery services who are making extra money on the side, they no longer have a job because of that law. Because Uber will not change their classifications, they'll just stop using employees in California. So there's always a ramification to these laws that people don't seem to understand. So they can go to court, challenge that this was done for a sport-like event or an entertainment-like event, and argue that we should not be, confined to being sold as just property or as a sex object. And then the defense attorneys for CZW would argue, what's wrong with being shown as a sexual being? Are you implying that there's something wrong with that? Do you think people in the porn industry should be seen any less as human beings? And now you have yourself an ethical debate that you cannot win because then all these women are pretty much like the, your body, your rights, sex positivity type. So now what do you do?
yeah. And I think that's the point I was getting at, because I'm like, on the minute point side, like, is it more of a fervent thing now because of the times we living in with the whole Me Too and presenting women in a certain light and this, that, and the third. Because it could be they just kind of like they in a different space now. Like they feel like they don't need CZW because a lot of people do things and points in their career when they have to, and then get to other points and then try to pretend like that part didn't exist or never happened or never
Mm-hmm.
did it. So it could be that, and then it could be, obviously, I need to be able to get ahead of this PR situation because I'm presenting myself as, a Lacey Evans, and this is gonna put me in a completely different light.
You know, that's a valid point, and those are valid concerns. Part of the issue is going to be, though, is proving that they did something in that footage that they wouldn't have done elsewhere for anyone else, and proving that they didn't want to do it in the moment. If they can prove that, they would have a case. But the problem is some of these matches I've seen, and I saw that Tessa Blanchard match. There was nothing about it that I thought was over the top or risque. So I don't know what the other matches have in store. Like if it's all just retreads of Mickie James and Trish from WrestleMania 22, or Mickey's getting all up in Trish's clam, then you might have an argument there. Especially if it's one of those things where DJ Hyde is saying you got to do it, or I'm not paying you. If that's not the case, though, if they just had a regular wrestling match, they don't actually have much in the way of say in how that footage is being presented because they have been paid for it. And that's going to be the problem. If I'm an attorney and someone came to me and says, we want to sue CZW for some type of fraud or likeness infringement, I'm saying you don't have a case. I'm saying you would waste your money, you would spend years in litigation, you would be bankrupt and broke, and you would lose. Because you don't have a say in this. And if you were to win, you would do irrevocable damage to the wrestling industry because then you would make everyone have to sign contracts, making it almost impossible to have indie shows anymore that present their footage on YouTube. So these indie shows that rely on like your Jimmy Jacobs or the rare occasion where you get like a Kurt Angle ring appearance in an indie, those shows are going to be gone because they can't afford to have contracts drawn up because contracts need to be, at least in Ohio, need to be certified. Like they need to be like notarized. Like you have to have an actual like sign off for a lot of contracts. So like you'd have to hire a lawyer, and there's legal fees, and then you got to worry about how this is going to affect your status as an independent worker, and then maybe you're working in an area where you're going to be reclassified as a union rep or as a union worker. Depending on who you are, it's going to affect how the ring crews are handled. It's a domino rally of unknown possibilities. Now, I say this all as a hypothetical because the law is a living thing, and judges interpret it differently for a variety of reasons. So there might be a real pro-labor judge who goes, you're wrong on this, CZW. I'm siding with the women. And maybe nothing else changes besides that. Maybe they just get a payout. Maybe that's all that happens. But you never know. It's a sticky wicket. And I don't think this is ever going to go to court.
Yeah, it's weird because it kind of takes me back to that line that Cornette dropped in Dark Side of the Ring. Like the wrestling business isn't bad. It's just people have got the people that have gotten in it and misused and abused it. Because, like you said, the law is a living, ever evolving thing.
Mm-hmm.
Many people, use and abuse it, but even as the law stands as it is, somebody like a shitty person that just so happens to be a judge can sit there and ignore or overuse it, or possibly stretch it,
Mm-hmm.
um, very much by their discretion. So. But then there's also the other component of it where somebody who, and this kind of goes back to certain things we've seen in the Me Too movement, where someone can just be in that whatever zone they are in, or I guess trying to be a martyr or some type of champion at the time, and they could look at the footage and be like a move that they normally do that could be perceived as one thing. Like obviously the company can like over present a match as sexual when nothing sexual really went down. But if they're mad about that and they realize they can't do anything about it, they could be like, okay, I do like. They could turn a pump handle.
I was
Uh,
just thinking of that exact move, the pump handle slam, where you set up from behind a bent over opponent, you put your arm around theirs, and then you lift them up. But you start from a rear position.
yeah,
You're
and then they
exactly
could
right.
easily print. It's like this is like everybody else knows this is a normal move that you do, but because you're mad that basically the company, um, basically caught, it's a loophole because again, like you said, if they're there and they're in the footage and they work for the company already, and the company can kind of really use that footage however they want. But if you're upset about it, you could then try to frame it, which is a whole nother rabbit hole of, you see that right there? That's we were told to do that position. It's like this is something you do in your moveset in every match. So then that because like you said, that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down, and then that becomes a he said, she said because you can't actually prove it at that point that they told you to do that. And then if it's somebody brings something from other companies that you've done that same move, then you have to say that about them as well. So it's like it's nuts from both sides, but it'll be interesting to see how something like this turns out because it very much could dictate, like you said, like indie stuff at a time where once we get back off after this COVID thing, a lot of things aren't gonna be up to par anyway because
Hmm.
of just the shape stuff is in. So and it seems like, people like Jordan Grace and others are beginning to rally, and some of them are more authentic in their intent than others. But because of the times we living in, whoever comes to the rescue first, whether they actually want to get the people out of the burning building or not, are clearly there for noble reasons. So,
Yeah. So, just for clarification, my studies were in criminal law, not necessarily contract law. So, take a lot of what I said. It's just kind of a general guide map to what you can expect, not a general, this is going to happen. But when it comes to this kind of situation, when you, yeah, to Marcus, to your point, where if you say that, they had me do a pump handle in this match and I don't do a pump handle, and then they go to Ring of Honor and they see that you had a match there and you do a pump handle, your entire case is dead. So for them to have a case, they're going to need to prove that they were coerced into doing things they didn't want to do and weren't adequately paid to do those things. That's the only shot they have. And I don't know why anyone would actually sit here and think that they have an ability to sue them for the use of CZW's footage, because even if CZW does have a standard release form, because I think most companies at least should, it'll tell you that on a standard release form, like if you sign this, we're going to use this as we want. And even if there's not a standard
mm,
release form, if they pay you, then at that point, you've already done the work. They can market it and produce it in any way they want. So they're not going to have a lot of ability to fight this, and I hope they don't go ahead with it because a lot of them are going to end up being very broke if they do. And it's not to say that I agree with CZW, because I don't. I am actually on the side of the women on this one. But this is a loophole.
yeah,
But it's also a learning opportunity. There's nothing you can do about this. Firstly, no one's going to buy these pay-per-views. The most attention these pay-per-views are getting is because of Lufisto and these women talking about them. So you've already done more damage to your identity, if you will, by bringing attention to little seen pay-per-views that no one's ever going to watch. But also, when you think about CZW right now, what you can do is demand certain things when you work for a promotion. And the fact is that a lot of these wrestlers kind of get stuck in their own old carny ways. They want to handle it in a certain way. But like I said, when Killer Cross was going through his shit with Impact Wrestling, it costs $80 to get a lawyer to look over a contract. If you can't afford $80, then maybe you should get a second job if you're a pro wrestler. So, like, there's no reason why you can't have a lawyer or an agent or someone have a standard work release for you. And when you tell them, like, listen, I'll work for you, but you have to sign this in agreement. And as long as it's not some 58-page document, if you keep it to 1 or 2 pages, you could probably, take a lot of the uncertainty out of these negotiations by simply spending, 5 cups of Starbucks coffee on a consultation with a lawyer.
yeah. I mean, look, it's not even like to your point, like if you're getting off in any business situation, and if you don't know any, if you don't know if you can't get off the first page because you're just that bad with legal jargon, how we might be with math, then just like it's better to be safe than sorry. You know, like it's $80, and you know, just to protect yourself if nothing else. Like people do it all the time. It saves people so much money, you know, headache and oftentimes their life, depending on the scenario. But yeah, it's just real. You know, it's interesting because, like you said, with the whole CZW thing, they can really frame that however they want, and that sucks. Like you said, one side of the women. But it is go back to the line like you get what you negotiate. So you know when you go to that table, you know you get to dictate the pace before anything is signed. And like you said, this could be a learning lesson for a lot of folks because at the time, a lot of people just want money and they want to work, and then they think about stuff after. And obviously, you get older, you mature, you want to dictate certain perceived narratives, and now you kind of want to flash back, but you really can't do that. And sometimes you got to chunk stuff out to the game and take the L at face value because a lot of times when people want to sue and people these are the times where you know homeless people will sue you for trying to fight them. Um, People don't oftentimes realize like the long term losing battle because you'll be like the whole threat of you know how you know Vince is I'm sure threatening people to you know I'll tie you up in court for years.
Hmm.
Like you'll go through all that and all you will get is a moral victory. You know, like it'll come off very much like what happened with MM's parents. You know that whole thing went down, and they had that conversation. He realized like they went through all that, and all that did was run his dad irreparably into the ground, and all they got was a moral victory because they got tons of money. This was like a mosquito on their agenda to deal with, and this was everything to his family. So I don't think a lot of times people take that into account because the whole pride thing when this stuff kind of pops off.
Yeah. For a while, I didn't realize you were making a boys reference. I'm like, what does Mickey Mouse or Eminem the rapper have anything to do with this, Marcus? The only reason you should ever go and sue someone is if you are able to recoup court costs at the same time. Even if you're suing for $3,000, if you are able to get them to agree to court costs, then do it. But most of the times that's not the case. But a lot of the times what will end up happening is big corporations will settle because they don't want to spend endless amounts of dollars paying you $5,000. Let's just say we'll give you $5,000 to make this go away. This isn't going to happen here. This isn't going
Yeah,
to happen. I
and
really, yeah.
no, I said yeah, and the middleman ends up you see end up spending you sue for 5,000, you end up paying 20,000 between court appearances and the lawyer fees.
Yeah.
You just like you left at a deficit.
Now, you could probably cut that down significantly if you find someone to do a pro bono, because then you're only paying court costs, and court costs can be expensive, but they're not usually the biggest factor. Like if in the case that you set up with the 20,000, you'll pay maybe $2,000 to $5,000 in court costs depending on how many months this goes on for. Excuse me. So yeah, it's got to be asked how much is this worth to you? Because financially you're not going to benefit. But if your intent is to destroy CZW, it might be. And I'm not going to sit here and go, and that would just be a shitty thing to do because no, CZW is pretty shitty.
Sure.
So like I don't know, like you want to shoot at the bear, all right, go for it. I'll make sure you got a bear gun, a big old bear shotgun rifle, but don't miss because it's going to get ugly if you do.
Yeah, if you had them with some bear repellent.
Man, bear repellent is basically saying, I got DJ Hot on camera saying I'll never sell this footage to softcore porn companies. That's the bear repellent. Like, that's the automatic win.
I'll never forget watching a YouTube video and this dude. It was like, oh man, I got attacked by a bear. I got away from it. Thank God I had this trusty bear repellent. I'm like, did I'm sorry, did you come to this conclusion after he mauled you? Because you look mauled. whole, whole face was red. I'm like, clearly the bear repellent ain't gonna kick in for another 20 to 30 minutes because you look mauled. How you're walking right now and recording is beyond me.
You start with the bear mace, then you run. Come on, kid. Rookie mistake. So I do hope all the ladies can find some peace in all this, but listen, it's not going to come through the legal system. Your best bet is to just rally the women and stop working for them. That's pretty much what it boils down to. But the thing with wrestling is you can kill a lot of credibility on social media. So maybe they hurt CZW enough to maybe inflict some permanent damage. But then again, when you think about what they present, they're not presenting to those that worry about things like, female empowerment or, gender equality. They're marketing to the Never Trumpers, not the Never Trumpers, the people who talk about Never Trumpers. They're marketing to people who don't care about things like gender equality, who don't care about things like racial equality. So I don't really know how much damage they're going to do to the fan base of CZW with all this,
This is the bathwater drinkers.
Yes. Maybe not the bathwater drinkers. This is like the vial of toothpaste spit around their neck. The bathwater drinkers are like a different breed entirely. Like that's IWS Mid-South. Like that's the rotten promotion. CCW is like a step above it, but I mean like a baby step. I mean like can't even stand up, baby step. Not great, but I've seen worse. So I want to talk about a story that kind of went underneath. We'll get to that one here in a second. My bad. Sami Zayn lost his Intercontinental title because he could not leave Canada, or maybe he didn't want to leave wherever he's living in Georgia or Florida, or I don't fucking know. He didn't show up at the Raws or the SmackDowns. And Vince McMahon's like, hey, I don't like that. I'm stripping you of the title. And Sami Zayn's like, I don't give a fuck. So now the Wrestling Observer and others are talking about how WWE talent are in fact afraid of losing their position, which is something that you and I have talked about being the case for a few weeks now. And it has been that way for a little while. So now fans are like, well, you said employees or wrestlers didn't have to worry about working, but now, people are losing their jobs and you're firing people for not working, and, you're stripping titles off people for not working. So what's the case? And apparently Rachel Ellering was apparently fired because she had concerns with the way the medical staff was doing things. Now, I do want to report something on that's not wrestling related, but does have wrestling ramifications. I think it was the Center for Disease Control announced either today or yesterday that contact-to-contact surfaces are not a big spreader of the COVID-19. You are not likely to get the coronavirus if Marcus touches a bookshelf and then I touch the bookshelf after him. That's a good thing to know. That is a big update on the COVID. Apparently, it is entirely through respiratory inhalement. So that one time Marcus coughed in my face, I might have the COVID now. Because that's the most likely way of getting it. So that makes my paranoid ass so much better. Because I was just like wearing gloves. I was washing the gloves before I took them off. Then I was re-washing the gloves. Then I was washing my hands. Man, I was pink for a few days. So now all I gotta do is wear a face mask and I'm golden, and I appreciate that. But that'll have some effects on how wrestling and sports in general are done. So that's a real good thing. But Marcus, obviously we're not surprised that Vince McMahon is being this kind of guy when it comes to handling employment, handling promotions. Now, I don't know if Sami Zayn didn't go to the country or is out of the country or is in the country but didn't want to wrestle. But I do know that who was the current Cruiserweight champion? Patrick Devlin?
He's been stripped. Yeah, but technically he was the last one, yeah.
No, he's still technically the champion. They're doing an interim tournament. So they're going to have a title unification when Devlin can travel. Apparently, what I heard from a friend of mine is that Devlin wanted to go, but couldn't due to travel restrictions. So I think the reason why Devlin is still considered champion while they're doing a quote-unquote interim title tournament is because Devlin may not be able to travel. I don't know, because I thought the UK title was being defended in... not the UK title. The Cruiserweight title is being defended in the UK now? Or is it just in NXT?
No, that was the plan, but obviously, that's kind of been cut too. But I guess it was going to be, back and forth, got him between brands, because, that was always a head-scratching thing at first, but it does seem like they've been trying to integrate UK more into the main NXT brand to kind of give it a boost, because it kind of though it got good wrestling, it's kind of been like the little brother nobody kind of wants to pay attention to a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, but yeah,
So because the cruiserweight title is being defended in Orlando now instead of wherever they needed it, Devlin wasn't able to make the travel for it. Apparently, that's what I was told. I don't know how true that is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen on occasion. But I don't know where Sami Zayn lives right now. I think he's still in Canada because I know Kevin Owens is still in Canada. So I think he opted not to travel.
yeah, he just came back.
He's on television again?
Yeah, he was on Raw.
So they strip him of the belt. He shows up on Monday. This is fucking stupid.
Owens, not Zayn.
Oh, Owens? Okay. I thought you meant
Yeah.
Zayn. Never mind. So Sportskeeda has this to say from Paul Davis. According to a couple of W sources I spoke with, feeling among some people at TV this week was that stripping Zayn of the title was done to send a message. WWE will always say that the wrestlers can take time off and not worry about their spots, and that certainly would apply to a top star like Roman Reigns, but for others, that is not a guarantee, and wrestlers in the mid and lower card certainly took notice. The thing is Roman Reigns isn't being protected either. He did have that quote unquote cameo at Money in the Bank where they showed that big photo of him. But I think that was more because they didn't want to take the time to take down and replace his photo because those things are fucking expensive and massive. So I don't think that, he's being done right. I think someone said that they finally mentioned him on commentary like a week ago. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I mean, what he benefits from, even if because to me he's come off really well in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Which applies to me. Um, and which I said, I mean, I said it weeks ago. Like it's funny that he's getting the perception wise, kind of giving the company the middle finger in a lot of ways, doing this than he was when they was pushing him to the moon and back. But um, I wouldn't be surprised if they punish him. I mean, he could literally, I mean, they could just stick him with Corbin for another 6 months when he come back, which is punishment for anyone. But he benefits from the fact that they don't have a lot of him.
Yeah.
Right? They put all their stock in of Reigns or Becky, and then they lose them, and then it becomes quite obvious when you see somebody, and God bless her. I'm pretty sure she's doing everything she can to get, stay and get in good position, and she's very talented. But we talked about her doing Money in the Bank. It becomes very obvious the lack of properly pushed stars when somebody like Dana Brooke is starting to rack up wins.
Yeah. That's a sign that things aren't. It's not good.
And now you have you basically got the bastard stepchild of what it was the this new brand extension thing, which is the bastard stepchild of the last thing they implemented. Um, so it's again, no brand split means anything. It never does. So they're really just trying to scramble right now. I mean, I'm obviously, the Becky thing probably came out of nowhere. And now Owens is back, so that might provide some cushion. Fortunately, but unfortunately, Joe's on commentary. Um, so you're not gonna have him, and they just put Corbin wherever in the hell they feel like it. She's like Charlotte, except less draped in gold. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I mean, look, they probably don't even see Zayn as that viable of a commodity anyway, because we see how they treat him, and the Intercontinental title only means, however, it's like a lot of narrative plots to the CW shows. This is like a MacGuffin that only means as much as the plot dictates this week. So about 6 months you forget it's even a thing, and then the next 6 months somebody's like, oh, this is the most prestigious thing and it needs to be back in the spotlight, and then specifically if Brock's the main champion, that's the main title on the show by default, because So that that's like I said, it's only ever as relevant as it needs to be for necessity. So, but yeah, the other talent should take notice. Not just that. I mean, we most of the talent. I'm sitting up here watching today an interview with Heath Slater and Zack Ryder. They kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like I said before, like even being there 14 years or however long Zack Ryder was there as well. Like a lot of those guys know that they're expendable because of how much they aren't used.
Mm-hmm.
So, they should take a look at and being a champion doesn't mean anything anymore. I mean, at most, if you're the main guy, that means something. But these IC and US and these women tag titles, it means nothing. These titles don't mean anything. I mean, hell, you almost better off on commentary than in the ring at this point.
I've said it before, and I think it'll apply here. While a lot of fans may not initially like the idea, I think what they should end up doing is having a singular brand champion and then getting rid of all the other belts, say for the tag team titles and the women's titles, and do weighted classes. And that way you could have more quote unquote top guys. It's an MMA model, it's a boxing model, and it makes sense, especially in wrestling, because that way you don't need to say, well, Roman Reigns is the only guy that matters. You could have Chad Gable be the lightweight champion, but he's a world lightweight champion, and he can main event shows for you if that's the way you want it to go. And then you could have the individual brand titles as a way of doing like non-weighted open weight fights, which would add a air of uniqueness. Wrestling is about evolving, but sometimes to evolve, you need to remember what worked and reset the script. And I think if you were to do that, like MLW has the heavyweight, the middleweight, and then the open weight. And I think I've heard plans of them wanting to do a cruiserweight belt as well. You would be able to have 3 guys who could be, or 4 guys who could be world champions for you, and all be seen in the same light. But the thing that makes MLW a little bit harder to back behind with that idea is that they still put more onus on the heavyweight title than anything else. And that's part of the issue. But if you were to represent 3 different weight classes all at the same prestige, you would be in a better off spot. But wrestling is so ingrained in how it was done 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that they're not thinking about how you can do it tomorrow. So, Marcus, remember I had told you we had like 2 more stories left?
Yep.
No, we don't. We have more. We have so much more to talk about. I hope you didn't have any plans tonight.
No.
So let's get to one with Kid Ref Chris Levin. Levin. He was the old referee, not the old referee. He was the baby referee for Impact Wrestling for about 2 or 3 years. He left at the end of 2019, started 2020. And when asked on Twitter about 11 days ago, like this story got fucking no play, and I don't know why. But asked 11 days ago, why, would he go back to Impact Wrestling? Did you leave because of education, yada, yada. Chris Levin said, nope, I'm not ready to discuss it publicly yet, but they committed grievously unethical conduct, and I refuse to continue to be associated with it any further. Start the debates on what that is. So there are 2 that leap to mind immediately. Either Levin's talking about the Killer Cross Scarlett Bordeaux contract situations, which we've already documented was completely and solely on Killer Cross. I was about to call him Chris Cross. Hey, ho, hey. Sorry. Either that was all on Killer Cross for not reading his contract, or he's talking more about. I can't even say the COVID stuff because he was gone from the company by then, so I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I've heard nothing about this. He has 0 love for it, saying that if I had loved Impact that much, I wouldn't have left. The fan he's talking to says, but I thought you left to finish college or education or something. Levin replies with, not sure where you heard that, but it's 100% false. So he's very much a social justice kind of guy. A lot of the things he advocates for are the things that would fall into the social justice realm. So this could mean anything, really. Maybe he was upset about Scott Steiner slapping Jordan Grace's ass, for all we know. I don't know. But to say that they committed grievously unethical conduct, that's a pretty big fucking thing to accuse somebody of. But I'm also worried about him making this accusation because in a follow-up tweet, not a follow-up tweet, I should say, but in a later tweet posted today, he said that he worked for CZW from 2011 to 2013, and he's grateful for the opportunities and lessons learned. He then goes on to say, I also dreaded ever going there every month because of its toxic atmosphere, rampant bullying, misogyny, and outright dangerous business practices. Glad things are finally coming to light. So, Levin essentially worked for 2 years for a company that has been doing all this deplorable shit without really saying anything about it. So I really don't know how much of what Levin says can be taken with some sincerity, because for someone who advocates so strongly for so many people, he doesn't really seem to have much of a backbone. I know I'm not someone who's going to fucking take being slighted silently. I'm not going to go and go full on like crazy about something, but I'm also not going to sit here and be like, listen, you know, someone did me wrong, and I'm not going to say anything about it. No, I'm going to speak up and be like, hey, don't do dealings with so-and-so. They're kind of shady. So I don't know if Chris Levin's perspective on what is grievously unethical conduct is going to be in line with what I think it is. Did Impact ask Homicide to take a bump that he was a little unsure of, but then eventually agreed to? Is that what he would consider grievously unethical conduct? Are they making, is the whole Joey Ryan gimmick change grievously unethical? Was bringing in Katie Forbes grievously unethical? Like, I don't know what his standard is. So I don't know what this is in terms of a potential issue. Because he's a pretty, like, if you go through his timeline, like, he's very much super sensitivity. Not that that's a bad thing, but, you know, I'm the kind of guy where if, you know, I break a knuckle in my hand, I'm going to just wear a fucking, some gauze on it and be fine in a few weeks. I'm not going to the hospital and have them tell me, yep, you broke your knuckle. I know that already, Chief. Well, it's just you know, we're going to wrap it, so I can do that at home. Yeah, but we're going to charge you $2,000. No, we're fine. Let's go. But we can give you painkillers. I don't need painkillers. So, you know, it's like pain tolerance. I don't know what his grievously unethical conduct tolerance is. It could be calling someone a cunt. You know what I mean? Like, that could be the big thing. You called her a cunt.
Well, he saw female butt cleavage.
Right? Or maybe Don Callis, like Katie Forbes, you know, we want to put you and this other hot chick in a hot tub nude, and Greasley was like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. That's grievously unethical. Maybe he saw someone with Impact Wrestling beating down a black person while wearing a white hood. I don't know. Like, where's the line for him? For me, what's that?
Vague.
What's
when
that?
You don't get specific. Even when you don't get specific and you leave it vague like that, it's just not enough.
Exactly. You let everyone kind of wonder. Like, for me, if I say that WWE has done something grievously unethical, you know that someone's either been forced to do something, some racist bullshit's happened, they somehow threatened someone, or there was a white dude beating down a black dude while wearing a white hood. Like, you know where that line is. It's not going to be, well, Daniel Brooke called Sasha Banks a duty head. Like, I don't give a fuck. Did Dana Brooke call someone a cunt? I don't care. Right? Like, did someone smack the other person in the face because someone got called a cunt? I don't care. Like, that, I don't fucking care. You do.
No, Chad. The word cunt triggers my traumas.
Why? Because you're such a cunt?
Ah!
Trigger! The word trigger should always be followed by that gif of that angry lefty shortcut pixie chick with the screaming face where she's like clenching her teeth and like you can tell she's going, but like shaking on the screen. Like, that's what that gif is. It's just her shaking every time you say triggered.
And listen, I know I just made a joke about that, and I know that's, but I fully know that that's a real thing with people, you know, and it happens all the time. But because there's never been, since this whole this wave has been going on, like you said, it's a wheel, and it's gonna turn, and we're gonna go. You know, the pendulum swing is just swinging real hard right now in a certain direction. But you know, because there's never been a universal line in terms of what, you know, where people's outrage is when it comes to this stuff, and people, you know, just dictated on whatever subjective manner they have be in their feelings about it at the time. A lot of this stuff gets overblown, and again, because the whole unethical thing, that's a big ass blanket on covering a lot of potential stuff, and he doesn't want to ever be specific about it, then it kind of just comes off as, you kind of just in your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, because like you said, this is a beautiful time as an Impact fan because we're not, besides them employing Joey Ryan, there's not really, too many stains on the record right now.
And to be fair, I don't like the Joey Ryan character, and him as a person, I have a lot of moral, ethical issues with. Like the whole sticking an Easter basket in your pants, and then saying that it's an Easter basket for kids, like that's fucked up. But also, his new gimmick is amazing and hilarious, and I need more of it. So like, I'm confused. I'm like that anti-drug dude who's just been introduced to caffeine. Like this is technically a drug, and it affects the way I think. I'm totally Mormon in this scenario. I need more coffee. So like, I don't know. Like the whole thing. When was it? Last week with Crazy Steve and OVE. Your OVE are over. And then he's like, you better watch out. I'm gonna get you. And he's like, I'm not scared of that. I'm crazy. And then Joey Ryan's like, you shouldn't say that word. You shouldn't say the C word. It's offensive to people who are nuts. And then he leaves. I'm like, that's fucking gold.
Oh, I gotta watch it.
It
I
was
gotta watch it. Bye.
it was solid. I missed last week's, although I'm pissed at myself because Kimberly and Tasha Steele, is that her name? Dasha
Oh,
Fuentes.
from Tasha Steele from NWA.
Yeah, I think she debuted in Impact last week.
Nice,
I
nice. I know. I
think.
know. Havoc has a new friend that Madison Rain brought on that show.
Yeah, that's Kimberly. She used to be in NXT and was the first female Shikara Grand Champion, and the girlfriend of Zachary Wentz.
Ah,
Yes.
all right, all right.
So they're hiring everyone significant other. Yeah, Tasha Steele has debuted in Impact. I don't know if that's like a contracted thing, but they were filming in Atlanta. I think they were in Atlanta. And that's, where Tasha Steele is from. That's one of the reasons why she was on the NWA is because she was a very local talent, which meant that she came with a smaller price tag because you weren't paying for her travel. So I don't know if that's the reason why Impact brought her on for these sets of tapings because they're taping until, well, I shouldn't say taping because they already taped, but they're taped till July. And half of
Nice.
their big knockout names are gone. Like Taya and Jordan Grace aren't at these tapings. So
Oh wow.
I understand why they would bring in a Kimberly or a Tasha Steeles. Kimberly makes more sense because she's going to be traveling with Zachary Wentz. Tasha Steeles because she's local. So I understand that. I'm hoping Kimberly at the very least stays on full time. I still need to see more from Tasha Steeles before I would give her a 3-year contract, but she's she's teaming up with Kiera Hogan at the moment for some reason. I didn't hear the entire exchange. Kiera's like, I'm going to take you underneath my wing, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure Tasha Steeles is older than her and has more experience than her, but all right, whatever. I'm down with it. I love it.
Anything they can do to get Kiera more airtime,
Exactly.
is fine with me. And when it comes to the Tiger and the Jordan, do we know if it's contract or COVID related?
Talia and who? Jordan?
Ty
Taya.
Jordan, you said they wanted tapings. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tiger.
it's COVID related. They didn't want to travel.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Same
That's cool.
Same thing with Tessa. And I know there's a few male wrestlers that didn't show up. I just, for the life of me, I can't think of any of them. Ethan Page and Josh Alexander couldn't go because they're in Canada. Same with Cody Deaner, but they're still being used for the show. So I would hope that they would be able to set something up with Taya and Jordan at the very least to do something. Because I know they did the interview with Tessa, so like it wouldn't be that hard to get them on screen. Technically, Taya is still involved in the storyline with Rosemary. Because like every time Rosemary talks or does a promo, she's always talking about how the Valkyrie abandoned her, or how she just talked to the Valkyrie or some shit like that. So they're still being worked in. So I'm happy about that.
Like she owes us for 3 times now.
And now that Crazy Steve has signed a new contract, so he's officially back in Impact. And someone just re-signed as well. I think Sue Young just re-signed.
Yes, Yeah, that's cool. I mean, they would benefit from keeping those. I mean, it's great to see Crazy Steve back. Um, Instead of like potential mixing him with like a suicide. And it's a love hate thing with me with suicide because I think I just appreciated the character more when it was Daniels and Cass because
Mm-hmm.
he just had a certain individuality to him, where they made it a point to have an individuality to him. Now it kind of comes off like he's shorter now. He kind of does some of Suicide's move. He don't. Like it's a weird little mix. But like you said, the costume does look good.
Oh, I guess this is also counts. So Su Young has re-signed with Impact, but they also announced that Susie has re-signed with Impact.
I mean, you got to make that distinction.
And the best part is a fan asked Kevin on Twitter, the Flying Glass asked, who was worse to negotiate? Impact Wrestling replied with, Susie just kept saying, that's bad, until she finally agreed. Tough negotiator.
I said, oh no, see now definitely now she has to be the next guest on Madison Rain's thing just because I want to see the interaction between her and freaking Swinger.
That'd be great. Oh, God. So I want to see more Crazy Steve embraces crazy clown gimmick. Because the one thing that I think kind of got lost with the Decay, as good as he was in that group, because he did carry a lot of the wrestling, him and Rosemary especially, because Abyss was just on no knees at that point. I would like to see him do more kind of in the creepy clown vein that we got to see with Doink the Clown back in the mid 90s when he was like a super over and super creepy. But Crazy Steve's being promoted as a face right now, so I really don't know what you can do with that. But I'm excited to see him back because I always liked his character, and I thought he was, he's another guy who was signed to NXT and never did anything. Just keep firing people. The Impact's just finding new people to hire.
Yeah, him and the other 10,000 names that was down there that was just stuffed in there like sardines. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if nothing else, they could at least have him doing because they did some cool stuff with Willow at the time, and this was when MVP was running things with like they just pan up and he'd be like in the rafters,
Mm-hmm.
like a hallway, just looking down and making noises as Willow does. And they can do some stuff like that with Steve. Like he'll be a perfect person to like throwing in Moose's way right now, just to f with him.
That's extremely possible, but probably already happening because I just thought of something. Crazy Steve is about the size of Suicide. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Crazy Steve is the one playing Suicide at the moment.
Yeah, because we know it's not TJP.
Uh, well, I mean, I don't know. It might be. Wait, no, they wrestled against each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's right, because they did Mannequin and Suicide. That's right. Now I'm remembering now. So legit, TJP's theme song is really growing on me. I think it works. I'm that guy. Go figure. I don't really have much to say about this NWA thing. Apparently, they announced that they're doing Carney Land, and it's revealed that it's a Patreon that sets to create podcasts and videos. The Patreon for Carney Land is officially up and running and features a handful of tiers ranging from a $5 Patreon tier that allows you to get early access to Carney Land content, all the way to the highest tier, which allows you to become a town council member at $50. And it also allows you to see what happens in Carney Land ad-free, gives you access to an exclusive once-a-month town council meeting, 25% off merch in the NWA Carney Land store, a certificate of citizenship, and much more. So it's basically just a membership. All this hype for a membership. Okay.
To what videos and like what podcasts?
Yeah, and 25% off merchandise.
Yeah, but we already got like however many thousand podcasts a week for free. That's
Right?
wrestling related.
You can listen to the Wrestling Underground podcast once a week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. I don't know.
Hey,
Speaking of I don't know, Drew Gulak gone from the WWE. So this situation really simple. Gulak's contract was up. He wanted a raise. The WWE said no. They were offended that he asked for a raise, so they let his contract expire by pulling the contract. Now he's a free agent. Can literally show up on television tomorrow if he wants. Today if he wants. Yesterday if he wanted. A lot of people are talking about him going to AEW. I really want people to stop going to AEW because what's going to end up happening is AEW is going to have a bulk of great talent that they cannot use because they don't have the space or the time to get them on shows.
Or they're gonna fall into TNA's whole thing, where a lot of the guys that's front running is old WWE guys.
Yes, but also that's already happening.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, more so that, yeah, because
But
Jericho. Yeah.
I would say that the difference is with Impact, because you're dead on that they did rely on a lot of bigger names with Impact that were in WWE. The difference with AEW is I've always seen them as a New Japan WWE splinter group that formed. So like more ex
Mm.
WWE guys that go there makes sense because that's who formed it. For TNA, there wasn't a lot of discussion or issues with them at first because they were seen as a WCW offshoot. So having ex WCW guys made all the sense in the world. But then the X division became this huge explosive phenomenon in the wrestling industry, and that's who people wanted to see produced and promoted. But then they started to sign guys like Rhino and Christian and Team 3D, and I don't think any of them were bad signings at all. But that started the trend of, well, these are guys who don't belong here. And I think in terms of a main event guy, as much of it pains me to say this because he's probably my third favorite WCW wrestler of all time, behind Sting and Dean Malenko. The first one that really earned that criticism, I think, it was Booker. He generally earned it because he did not do great in TNA. But I'm a Booker stan, so I'll still watch the hell out of it, so, especially with his African accent. In my home country of Africa. All
Yeah,
right.
when Booker's on, his entertainment value is peak when he's on. And then also AEW, to their credit, has the benefit of getting guys that just because they were there for a long time, that doesn't mean like they ever like peaked at anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if they get Heath Slater, a guy like Luke Harper and others like might have been there for a long time, but they didn't really do anything significant when it goes back to Impact. Those guys were already capped off. Nash, Hall, Flair, Steiner, Booker, like those guys. The reason why it was so much better with Christian because he had something to elevate to.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't like he evolved out of the creepy little bastard in TNA. Those guys was they really was there on a group vacation. And that's what I mean. That's what it was. I mean, for Flair, obviously the money because he's not gonna do anything for free, and he still had that itch he wanted to scratch. Like they made him retire in WWE. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't his thing. Or, but that's again that ended up hurting guys like the front line and Fortune 4 and stuff like that because those were the guys that needed to be elevated. Primarily using a lot of those guys and kind of came off the wrong way. But yeah, with Gulak. I mean, we kind of passed the point now. This pandemic has kind of put a stake in the ground in terms of them doing what they were doing, which is, signing people that they didn't need to keep, but they just wanted to because they didn't want anybody else to have them for F tons of money. That's done now.
Mm-hmm.
So asking for a raise, unless you're like of an Orton ilk, you might as well just go ahead and hit that Hulk music.
For Gulak, I think the best landing spot for him, as corny as this is going to sound, is TNA or Impact Wrestling. Mostly because he is one of the few guys who is just like Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, in terms of in ring. But Impact is not a promotion that has a lot of those guys. They have a pretty great, hodgepodge of talents, a cornucopia of different talents.
Yeah.
So he would stand out more, I think, in Impact. When you think about guys like him in Impact, it's really just Eddie. Eddie Edwards is the only guy who Drew Gulak has a similar style to, and even Eddie Edwards has evolved his style maybe to the detriment of his overall personification, but he's still Eddie Edwards, so who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Drew Gulak would have a lot of success there, while in AEW, there's a lot of guys who wrestle really well, but don't have a lot of charisma. Now, Drew Gulak, I think, does have some charisma. I don't think he's Dean Malenko by any means. So there is some possibility there. Ring of Honor would make a lot of sense as well, at least 6 years ago. I don't think they're the same mat-based promotion that they used to be, but I think they could still get a lot out of them if you went there. So Impact and, I mean, New Japan. If New Japan is still dedicated to doing that American arm of their company, Drew Gulak's the guy, right? Like, you'd be Jeff Cobb and Drew Gulak that you would want to build around. I would imagine if you're New
I
Japan.
mean, absolutely. I mean, I think New Japan would be a great fit for him, like Impact I mean, like you said, Ring of Honor maybe 6 years ago, but maybe if you want to go there and have a little stint, that'll be cool too. NWA will also fit him.
Hmm.
He kind of, old school presentation and style, and very much, get more character out of it like that. But um, this is a real good conversation to have because I was also, like I said, I was watching the interview with Heath Slater, and he was just so pumped and amped to go anywhere because he had been fortunate enough to not necessarily hit all those spots before coming to WWE. So, um, he's really just amped to go anywhere. But for because of the perception in the industry, and I think this unfortunately trickles down to a lot of guys too, they only look at like a place like a New Japan, obviously, or AEW as a lateral, and look at um, Impact and Ring of Honor as
A
a
step down.
interception, or yeah, like step down, which sucks. But it's like I think that's even more important to change that perception coming out of this whole thing because you're not gonna have the a thriving indie scene like you did. Once certain things stop happening where certain stimulus opportunities get cut, a lot of people are gonna have to reshuffle their finances. They're gonna have to be very mindful of where they put that money. So they're not gonna have $50 to pay for a freaking Carney membership or whatnot. They're gonna have to be very specific about where they put that money. A lot of them just not gonna have it to go and revitalize, a lot of these places like they used to.
Yeah, the other thing to kind of keep an eye out on is in terms of promotions. I forgot to bring that up, but if they can get him on the right kind of deal where he can still work elsewhere, MLW would be perfect for Drew Gulak.
Yeah.
I'm so in love with that MLW roster, Marcus. It's insane. Like Hammerstone is amazing. I genuinely hate the I forgot the hell their names are. the ah they're a heel trio. Coda Brazil is one of the members, and the other two names are just fucking blanking on my head. One of them is a member of the Rascals in real life. I can't remember what their name is, but like I genuinely don't like them. Myron Reed, that's one of them. They're a great heel stable. I love them. They piss me off every time they're on television. Fuck
Is
perfect.
it is it hell? What is this? Hell Contra? What is that?
Contra's the top villain stable. They're the one that has, I think it's Jacob Fatu. He's the world champion at the moment. They're kind of like a stable of terrorists. Not Tom Waller. Simon Gotch is a part of them, I think, if I remember correctly. And then they have a Japanese wrestler who I'm not that familiar with. And I think they have another person who I'm blanking on. Contra's kind of just, they're there. Fatu's a really great wrestler, but I don't think anyone's buying him as their top guy, even though he's extremely talented. But the rest of the roster, I think, is what makes it up. Though I should say that Fatu did have a great match with L.A. Park, who's like 51. So, credit where it's due on that one. I think Fatu has a lot of potential. I just don't think he's ready to be that guy yet. But, they lost MJF from their Dynasty group, but they're still just as entertaining as ever. One of them just re-upped with him, and he's the Caribbean champion. He stole it from Savio Vega. So now he's going around calling himself the Caribbean champion, even though he's like, nope. And then he's like, it's like 2 weeks ago. He's like, I'm going to defend the Caribbean champion in Mexico because that's where the belt's from. And I think it was like Hammerstone's like, the Caribbean and Mexico aren't the same place. And the guy goes, who cares? It's all the same. So he's very much one of those elitist dick heels, and he does it so well. And he's probably the best heel promo guy they got, in my opinion. I'm looking up his name right now. Richard Holiday, that's his name. He's fucking fantastic. He was being overlooked because MJF was in the group, and Hammerstone just looks like a fucking god because he's just jacked. He looks like Thor. So Holiday kind of went underneath the radar for a long time, but now he's getting a lot more to kind of flush out the character. Like his lawyer is also his father. So like whenever anyone tries to like fuck with him, he goes, "If you touch me, I'll sue you. I'll call my lawyer /father and sue you." And it's like this really great little gimmick that he does. I'm very much a fan of it. It's really good. I'm googling Myron Reed real fast. See if we can. He's only 22. Shit, I thought he was at least 25. He's young.
Baby, he's a baby.
He's a baby. Injustice. That's the faction Myron is in. Injustice.
Not a bad name.
What's that?
Not a bad name. Shout out to Stargirl.
All right. So who do you think Drew Gulak's going to sign with?
I can see a MLW. Like I feel like he comes off as the guy. Cause I seen a video where he was talking with Oscar before a match. For a match she had with I think that was Charlotte or something like that. But at Mania or whatnot. But I think he doesn't come off as the guy who necessarily in that zone of potentially having a perception. I was generally speaking on because that really does seem like the perception in the industry when it comes to these companies. Unfortunately, when really any company that's up on their feet right now needs to be looked at as high on the totem pole. But for him, I can see MLW. I think that'll be a really great pick. Um, but probably between AEW and MLW.
Okay. Then we have to talk about fucking Jim Cornette.
No,
Yeah.
the Becky thing.
Becky thing, the Dana thing, the Carmella thing. Now, I made comments at Money in the Bank that I stand by. I think Carmella puts way too much makeup on and it makes her almost look unhuman. Not that she's unattractive or that she's ugly, but she just wears this grayish, beigeish makeup that really just dulls all of her features, and I don't know why. And it's not a her thing; it's a trend thing. It's like when everyone in 2004 had that pink stripe of hair. I'm so punk, bitch. You 35? What?
That's a show.
Bitch, you 35? What? So it's like it's a trend. Dana Brooke has the same makeup. Carmella has the same makeup. I think even Nia wears the same makeup. So it's just a thing. I don't know why. But it does them no favors. It does not make them. It does not highlight or bring out their natural beauty. It stifles it, in my opinion. Because I've seen Dana Brooke without makeup. I've seen Dana Brooke. I look at a lot of Dana Brooke. It's all you need to know. She's gorgeous. I think she's fantastic. And she should be treated a hell of a lot better than she is. But some people have criticized the look, and I think it's fair to criticize the look because we do it all the time, not just to women, but to men as well. Looking at you, Flabby Eddie. Come on. Drop them LBs. You know you can. Also, kudos to Fallah Bahh. He's lost even more weight, and he's moving even better. And I think that's fucking fantastic. And he is my early pick for Inspirational Wrestler of the Year. Because that dude has redefined his entire career in the span of 18 months.
Yeah, and I'm really glad it's an Impact. I mean, he's gonna have to put those I'm gonna call them pamper pants, um, and he's gonna have to legitimately just jump in some sweats, man. Like for real.
I'm a big kid now. The the babies. The best part is like guys like Fallah Bahh and Impact redefine the roster in a way that is completely necessary. You don't just want to have a bunch of spot monkeys or ground guys or big fat heavyweights. You want a nice arrangement, and Fallah Bahh is kind of like he's only 5'9", so he's not like a big guy, but he has a unique look that makes him immediately noticeable. Like you see him, you know who that is. There are times I see some women and men in the WWE, I'm like, wait, who is that one? White dude with trunks in NXT? I have no idea. Blonde chick in NXT? Bartlett Blair? I don't know. You all look the same to me. And I'm the white dude on the podcast. By the by, I just found out today I'm considered spicy white.
What?
I don't know. Pyro Jitsu was talking about like spicy white people. I'm like, I'm Italian. Does that make me spicy white? They're like, yeah. If you're FBI, I'm like, I am full blooded.
FBI.
Yeah, full-blooded Italian. So all right, I was like, whatever. So I'm officially spicy white. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, it wasn't Powerbomb Jitsu. It was Blurred. The other arm of Powerbomb Jitsu. I fucking laughed
So
when I
you're
saw that.
so you're a regular?
Wait, I'm a regular.
No, no, not a regular. No, like a regular white.
Oh, a regular white. I guess. I prefer Garcasian, like garlic and Caucasian.
Ah,
I prefer more
okay.
Garcasian. The Garcacity of it all. By the by, if I see someone use the Caucasity in genuine conversation, it should be legal for me to slap them. Like, we don't need to be racist about this. Come on. You can just say the audacity. It's fine. People suck. We don't need to segment them into sucky subgroups. We all just suck. Anyway, back to the women. So Jim Cornette went on Carmella, or maybe not Carmella, but he went on Dana Brooke, and Dana Brooke's like, "I'll fight you, bitch." And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, all right, that's kind of on brand with Jim Cornette, but do you feel like sometimes he's lashing out more in the last year or two than he has in his entire career?
I mean, I think he got definitely a lot of more time on his hands. It seems to do so because he's not in the NWA or anywhere else that we know of. But I don't know. I mean, he's always coming. He's that guy who's stuck in his ways, stuck in his perceptions of how things should be. You know, a lot of things in his mind during his day wasn't broke, and the industry is trying to fix it, or people that are coming to the industry are trying to fix it, and it's pissing them off. And I very much think he also has that same viewpoint of the women. You know, it's funny. I heard him. I heard his point on the whole carrying Cross thing when Killer Cross debuted in NXT, like the interest and whatever, but he was like, he wanted him to like kill the guy instead of playing with his food or whatever. And in his mind, that whole interest was more about Scarlett, who came off like the start of anything. And to an extent, he's right. But then he was like, well, wait till like you think he'll get called up. You're like, wait till Vince at least sees Scarlett because obviously she fits his bill. But I very much wonder if he, kind of views women in that same light, or he could very much like her and just picked her as the Cornette victim of the day, not victim, but Cornette
Target.
pop, yeah, target of the day. You know, who knows? You never know. You know, he could very much just be this old, cantankerous guy who's comes off one way but is very unhappy from a psychological standpoint, or just could just be classic Cornette. I don't see the point in threatening them. But that's speaking of on brand, that's very much on brand with all these people who are still apparently holding ass whoopings for Dave Meltzer, despite them going to him for his continued opinion.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing. I genuinely don't like going after someone hard for their physical appearance. But as this is an athletic contest, the idea of weight management does affect athleticism. That is a scientific fact. If that offends you, I do not care. So when I talk about people needing to lose weight, it's not because I think as individuals that they are inhuman or less valuable because they are fat. I'm pointing out the simple aspect that they would be better off in the ring as competitors, as performers, if they were in better shape. That's a realistic, logical fact. But it's not one that I ever want them to feel like is tied to who they are as people and their value, because that's not true. With Falaba, he was not a great worker when he debuted in Impact because he was slow, he wasn't very athletic, and he wasn't very able to do anything of consequence. Now you can see so much more within him as a competitor and what he can do. And it's not even just that it's healthy for someone like Falaba to lose weight because, if you're 5'9", 5'10", and you're 380 pounds, you're looking at an early death. That's not fat shaming. That's not body shaming. That's reality. Yokozuna died at 40 because of his weight. That's just how it is. Roman Reigns' brother, didn't he pass away recently? Jamal? Or is he still alive?
Rosie, um, I think, did he pass away? I think he, damn, he may have. You're right, but I don't know if it was recently. Um,
He died in 2017.
yeah,
He died due to heart failure due to his weight. So
yeah.
weight
And
matters. It
Samoans are
does.
known. Wait,
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
they
that
do.
was just it was Samoans are known to carry weight. So
So like when you look at Rikishi, I'm worried about him. He's in his 50s. Now it doesn't always affect everyone the same way. Your body, you could have heart failure if you're perfect weight. I'm aware of that, but you have higher risks of heart issues if you are overweight. So I worry about people who are drastically overweight. I think when you look at Eddie, I think you can tone up Eddie Edwards and make him into a top level guy. But the shaggy T-shirt and the why he's wearing skin tight jeans, I don't know, man. I thought that style went out a decade ago. But like you could change his look up and make him the face of your franchise if you want. So I don't know why they're letting Eddie go down this road where it's not really all that. I'm not that ingrained anymore in the crazy Eddie storylines. I want Eddie to go back to his American Wolf persona and be their workhorse, be their blue collar mat guy. That's just a personal opinion, and I think he needs to reassert the effort because I feel like he's lost some of that desire to be that guy. That's just a personal observation. No, it's in no way meant to diminish Eddie Edwards as a person. Just an absolute statement that his technique would be better if he was in better shape. That's it. But with what Jim Cornette does, Jim Cornette blatantly and offensively insults people for the sake of it. I don't know why he wants to do that. I don't know why that's his MO. I don't know why he thinks that's okay, but it's what he does. And at this point, I feel like the only reason Jim Cornette has any backers at all is because of the fact that sometimes he does say the things fans want someone of his experience to say.
elk.
Yes, his ilk to say. Because like for every she's fat, she's ugly, she shouldn't be doing this, he's stupid, he's lame, he'll be like Vince McMahon's a racist bastard. And we're all like, all right. But yeah, we agree with that last one. But then he tackled the Becky Lynch situation. And the Becky Lynch situation is a daffy one right here. We recorded it on Sunday last week, so we weren't on the air when this broke. I knew about this Monday morning, but we recorded on Sunday, so obviously it didn't matter. Becky announced she's pregnant and is taking time off for wrestling. Becky will be gone depending on how things go for her. Like let's just assume the best case scenario. She has a healthy pregnancy, she gives birth, and after the 6-week period after birth, she's allowed to go back to working out. She could be back in the ring anywhere from 12 to 18 months. Best case scenario, depending on how long it takes for her to get back into ring shape. But there are some people like, yeah, she could be back by SummerSlam. And I'm like, you don't know how babies work. Like, at all. So she's going to be out. She's going to be pregnant for at least 7 months. That's, I can do math. What are we in? 5 and then 7. That's December, I think. Right?
Even more so than I know now, but you don't know how life works.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not just baby isn't like a new car or something, or like that's a whole lifestyle change. She might not even feel the same way about wrestling once she had that kid or see that
That's
kid for
something
the
she's
first.
mentioned. She's even said, I don't know what the future holds. Like, Becky Lynch could be, and let's be honest, Becky's made millions of dollars. She's main evented WrestleMania. Like she said, my dream since I could remember was being a mom. She could easily walk away and never come back.
And don't think she don't know she peaked.
Yeah, she's obviously peaked.
Don't think she don't think she don't know. Like she's done stuff. A lot of those women had a lot of opportunities that a lot of those women unfortunately will never even sniff. So she's been the wrestler. She's main event at WrestleMania. They got to do it. Ronda Rousey went from an underdog to a big dog, quote unquote. She even said it in an interview like I've done everything I wanted to accomplish, and this is after. And I heard somebody else point this out. And they was right about this. She had like she got into the business early and had like a near career-ending head injury and then came back.
Mm-hmm.
So like she like I said, she's peaked, but this is a whole nother avenue. People just I think a lot of times people say stuff like that because it's what they want and
Mm-hmm.
they don't calculate, just like I said, what it is. Like a baby is a complete lifestyle change. Like Eve, I remember Eve left like when she was, really hitting the stride and very much still in phenomenal shape and at a very young age, but she left to go start a family. She left it behind. Like Becky is several times more successful than she was in the company, and people are like, maybe she's gonna be back by SummerSlam. How bad do you think she wants to come back? And God knows how long this whole thing is gonna be going on. You think she can want to come back even with that? So, again, I think a lot of people just kind of got their proverbial head up the ass of the character, and I get it, but like I said, this is a kid. This isn't a car.
Right. The thing that is also creeping up in conversation is the idea of how female athletes should handle things like pregnancy. Because unlike an injury, which is unexpected, you can plan for a baby. So does this mean that there are going to be less opportunities for women to headline shows anymore because you never know if you're going to end up losing them for 18 months at a time because they decided that they want to start a family? It's a unfair double standard, but it is one that needs to exist because men can wrestle while their wives are pregnant, women can't, you know? And that's the unfortunate situation. You see it in the WNBA sometimes where a top star will end up missing an entire season because she ended up getting pregnant. Now, I don't know how this is going to affect wrestling or sports in general because you think about someone like Becky Lynch, if she's gone for 18 months, what does that do to her name brand? What does it do to the value of the company? What does it do to the company wanting to put more women on the main event scene? Because you could lose them overnight, just like that, all because they had unprotected sex. That's a real big daunting thing to worry about if you're shelling out millions of dollars to a product. I hope it doesn't affect anything, but again, like we talked about with that domino rally effect, it easily could. Becky's gone for at least a year now, all because she not got Nazi fucked by Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins will always be a Nazi fucker. I don't care how many kids he has. I don't care how many kids he has with Becky Lynch. Seth Rollins will always be the Nazi fucker because he fucked a
She's
Nazi.
like, yeah, you're gonna have the kids are gonna come out looking exactly like Rollins, and she's gonna rush back, or she's gonna go in the lab and try again.
Exactly.
Um, you never know, but aside from like I said, like the complete lifestyle change with the kid, your body completely changes as well. Like a lot of this is a bunch of dudes saying it specifically Cornette, who may very well be on. If she's not an athlete, then she be in the kitchen cooking, cleaning, and waiting on sex. Then he's always obviously gonna have it skewed a certain way. But again, this is the risk you run when you have these couples. Like it's a lot of people. Obviously, like you said, it's unprotected sex. Some people may on birth control, some people may not. You don't know, but this is the risk. That's run. You can't put in somebody's contract. Yeah, we're gonna have you not having sex for this amount of time because we're gonna make you relevant and we're gonna put you in front of the company. So we can't really have you sexually active because you could ruin us. So
Yeah.
although I wouldn't put that past WWE, we'll try to sneak something in there like that.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if when Becky Lynch is ready to return, they don't bury her outright. Like this whole Vince is happy that she got knocked up and ruined their plans for the next couple of months, and now they're without Roman and Becky. I could easily see Vince being that kind of a dick. Truly, I could. But it's hilarious. Didn't Becky make Ronda tap at WrestleMania?
Did she make her tap or did she pin her some funny style type of way?
Well, whatever it was. Like she definitively beat Ronda at WrestleMania. Yes.
Yeah.
She beat Ronda for the title, and now she beat her to being a mother.
Oh.
I wouldn't make that joke if Ronda Rousey wasn't a trash bag human being.
You know, you, Mate, just want to let it know. I'm gonna continue to plug this. We booked a extremely credible storyline, 2 years worth of a storyline
Hmm?
between Becky and Nia Jax. if I didn't know for a fact that I know Ronda is just sensitive as shit, and specifically around an issue like that, you could have both of them come back and make that the thing.
Yeah, you really could.
But but she might actually try to kill Becky with a punch after that.
You know, one of the things I hate most about Ronda Rousey, there was a. Did you ever watch The Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah.
They did a season with Misha Tate and Ronda Rousey, and Ronda, you know, her coach Edmund Targaryen is a douchebag, and Misha Tate had brought in a then current UFC fighter to help instruct her team. And Targaryen gave this dude like the dead eye, the evil eye, and he's staring him down. And the guy's like, "Do you want to fight?" And Edmund's like, "Yeah, I want to fight." So he's like, "All right, let's go into the octagon and do it," because they had like this little octagon training facility there. So they start walking there, and Ronda grabs her coach and pulls him away. Fair enough, nothing wrong with that. But then Ronda gets right in the other dude's face, like eye to eye, nose to nose, like she wants to fight him. And she's like, "You're not a real man. You're not a real man." And I'm just thinking to myself, the only reason she's doing this is because she knows that guy won't go off on her. That's a bitch move. That is a no good, low down, awful thing to do because you know you're protected by society and you're going to be that confrontational when you don't have any right to be. That's the kind of thing that pisses me off. I don't support punching anyone for any reason, less alone a man hitting a woman. But when you go and you instigate it, knowing full well that no matter what he does, he'll be in the wrong, that's bullshit. Because we talk about all the time about the idea of having power or authority and how you need to be very, aware of what you're doing. We hear the term, what is it, Marcus? When you have something that anyone doesn't have because of how you were born, it's that trendy social justice term that everyone uses. I don't fucking know what it is. I'm gaffing on so many things. Privilege. Thank you. Marcus with the tag in. The hot tag from Marcus. Ronda Rousey has a lot of privilege. And for her to get in that dude's face, trying to start a fight, knowing full well that either he's going to get his ass kicked by her or he's going to kick his ass and then go to jail, that's a lot of privilege. And she uses that authority to make people, or at least in her opinion, to try to make people look stupid. And that's a real bully move. Like, I'll never do that to anyone. If you get in my face, I'm gonna knock you the fuck out. But I'm never gonna get in your face knowing you're going, "Hey, what are you gonna do? Hit me and go to jail?" No. If you swing at me, I'm swinging back. That's how it works. I'm not gonna try to impose on you or intimidate you or be a bully about something because I don't feel like that's an appropriate thing to do for adult humans in a modern society. So that's essentially the roundabout why I hate Ronda Rousey, because she's a cunt.
Besides, I was gonna ask you this. I know you probably gonna say, yeah. She also kind of seems like, does she seem like the type to like start a fight with a dude, end up whooping the dude's ass, and then still after the interim be like, he had no right putting his hands on the chick.
Marcus, did you read her book?
No, I'm saving my brain cells. Are you serious?
She literally told a story about that exact thing.
Oh man.
I can't. So here's the rundown. So she accused the then ex-boyfriend or the soon-to-be ex-boyfriend in this story. I think this was like 10 years ago, of taking photos of her without her consent. Who knows if that's true? The boyfriend was trying to talk to her and grabbed her by the arm to stop her from leaving because he wanted to talk to her. So she judo throws him. Maybe an overreaction. But I'm also of the ilk where if you come up behind me and you put your hands on my shoulders and I don't know who you are, I'm throwing you over my fucking shoulder and I'm dropping an elbow in your face. Don't do that to me. I don't like being touched when I can't see you. Maybe Ronda's the same way, so give her a pass. The dude then tries to go and talk to her again, even though he just got his ass judo throwed? Judo tossed. There we go. He goes into her car non-violently. He just opens the door and sits down and he's like, "I need to talk to you. Don't leave. I need to explain." And she then goes off and starts walloping on this dude. She's a trained fighter. She's beating the shit out of this dude. I think she even talks about how she punches him in the dick or kneed him in the dick and left him bloodied on the curbside as she drove away. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's a severe overreaction to a conversation. And again, this isn't the other dude's opinion or perspective. This is all gleaned from her version of the story. It's like you hear that and you're like, huh. Well, all right then. She's kind of a violent human being. Shockingly enough, I'm not surprised. You know, I've mentioned this before. Her mother made her when she was like 7 years old run around the gym on a broken foot. You know, psychopaths breed psychopaths. What do you want? I dread any child that woman has because she will just be an awful parent. But anyway, back to the Jim Cornette on Becky Lynch. So Jim Cornette went off and he made some points that I think are valid. He says you can't always be on top in the wrestling business and a $1 million a year spot or more, but you can have a baby. You know, what is she, 30? She's 33. He goes on to say, and this is where things kind of get, like you can have that conversation, but you need to have it tactfully. I think you need to have it with some class and some dignity because it is a valid conversation to have among female athletes, especially ones that are getting paid buku dollars. But when you go and you start, I don't want to say dehumanizing, but mocking or belittling it, that's when he loses his ground. And he goes on to say, well, she's still got many more years before the fucking easy bake oven shuts off. All right there, Cornette. She can have all those problems like a descending stomach and stretch marks and hemorrhoids and hormone problems and mood swings and all of those other joys of motherhood later on when she ain't making $1 million a year. Now, the thing with women, they do have a accelerated cycle in terms of how long they can have a baby for as opposed to men. Because I know dudes who are having kids at 70. I don't know why. Just enjoy your fucking life at that point, bro. But women usually hit menopause late 40s, early 50s. So that's the end. But more to the point, like, why would you want to have a kid when you're 45 for the first time, right? You're gonna be fucking 70 by the time that kid goes off to college, right? Or graduates college. You're gonna be the person everyone thinks is your grandchild. Like, no one wants to be that person in school. Oh, it's so great to see come see your granddaughter. No, that's just my daughter. Oh, you old bitch. Fucking 35, bitch. So, no one wants to have a kid, or very few people want to have their first kid when they're in their 40s. So I don't see the whole point in waiting. My whole problem is if you want to have a kid, kind of like give us a heads up, like, hey, I'm going to be trying to have a kid. And I'll be like, all right, cool. Now I know I can write you out of some situations so that way you can do your thing. And if you do get pregnant, I'm not going to be totally, bent over and screwed on this one. But for Cornette, he seems to be more of the mindset that you should wait until you're 40 and have a kid because money. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go. He goes on to say she's got plenty of time left. She really doesn't. What would you do if your wife came home and said, instead of making $1 million next year, I'm going to basically just be a raging bitch for the next 9 months and then give you more shit to worry about around the house? Well, considering that Seth Rollins makes 5 times as much as Becky Lynch, I would say, okay, I'll hire a maid. The points... yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because he's got more. Sorry.
No, it's just the rest of this article. What were you going to say?
No, it's just, I mean, that's very much from a skewed perspective, and very much, and I hate to use this term because we're using it again, SJWs are using this a lot, and some logical people, but I get it. Very much from the skewed male gaze of it all. Saying she got a lot of time she don't is actually more hazardous for her to have a kid the older she gets.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of her being a raging bitch is a subjective perception, considering that varies from woman to woman. She could have a very smooth and easy pregnancy. Um, and in terms of on $1 million, we don't know what she's making, and we damn sure don't know what she saved.
Yeah.
So, and that's a big contract two income household now. So if she don't got it, he do. So he like just slow up, and like again, she peaked in Mania.
Yeah.
She peaked in Mania. Once Batman lost the Joker, she's I get it. Her being on the belt, having the belt means she's on top, but logistically that character peaked in Mania, and she's not really been exciting since she got to do it with Ronda. Like I get it, but that's like again, that's from a very skewed perspective for me. And like I said, that kind of dates back to that old school mentality. And again, even what they said, you can't always be on top. And
Mm-hmm.
she knows better than anybody that you're not always going to be on top. And oftentimes, when it's perceived that you're on top, you're still not on top. So I feel like that's kind of where that character was at a point. Like Oscar was getting more popular doing her grunts and just her Oscarness than she was being champion. So, it was it.
So Meltzer has confirmed that her pay will continue through her maternity leave, for what it's worth, from
Oh,
Jim Cornette. But the other thing that came up out of this is Shayna Baszler's opinion on this. Now, I would never tell someone not to get pregnant, or, you know, that you getting pregnant was a mistake. As a business owner, if your availability to work was solely based on if you were pregnant or not, or hurt or not, if you were going to get pregnant, I would like, a heads up at the very least to prepare for it, but I wouldn't be like, you're fired. I would just be like, well, now I'm fucked. I need to figure out something to do. I'm a problem solver, though, so I'd be fine. But I can understand anyone's kind of trepidation to, this situation happening and not really having a foolproof plan on how to handle it when your top star goes out. But in this case, I'm not at all upset or mad that Becky's gone, because, pregnancies, having a kid, that's supposed to be a wonderful thing. And also, I don't really care about Becky. Like, you do you. I'm good. But some people do have a problem with it, namely Shayna Baszler. There are things I feel like shouldn't be in character, so even if you say it in character, I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And Shayna Baszler said this about Becky Lynch being pregnant. Excuse me. How stupid do you have to be to get knocked up when you're champion? Here's a fact. 10 out of 10 mothers will try to convince you that pregnancy didn't ruin their careers. You're trying to tell me that Becky Lynch becomes the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion and throws that all away just to house some miserable parasite? Fuck, that is hard. The man barefoot fat on the couch eating bonbons. Yeah, that kid's going to suck. You know who the father is? I rest my case. Okay, I like the last line. That last line is perfect. Look who the father is. But on the same instance, whether this is in character or not, that's a pretty damning thing to say, man.
I mean, that's interesting. I didn't really have a problem with it. I thought that went right along with her character, and supposedly she was one of the first ones when she went back there to kind of go up and be happy for her. Like you said, obviously it's in character, but it could be hard. I wouldn't be surprised too if that wasn't half the company throwing that in there because they were pissed about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if you thought that was bad, like you should have seen what they had Natty come up and say afterwards.
Oh, God, what did she say?
Some nonsensical BS of how dare you disrespect the beauty that is motherhood. Like some shit a human wouldn't say to another human in conversation, but because it's Natty, bring on the dum dum. Um, so, and then no, it got better. She shat on that and said, "Why are you so worried? You're never gonna have a kid. You're like the hard dynasty dies." She told her the hard dynasty dies with her. And like I said, I thought that was perfect because if they're not gonna give Shayna a lot of credibility in terms of beating the people that she should be, they could at least make her badass with these promos.
Dude,
Um,
Marcus, I need a second to catch my breath because that was fucked up. And it's not one of those things, Marcus, that like I haven't thought of, like, because you have to wonder. Natalia's position in the company is really, really loose. Like, I
yeah,
know a lot of people go, well, yeah, she's a heart, so she'll always have a job. How many other hearts have a job? How many other hearts are still in the industry? There's a lot. So no, Natalya isn't safe because of her last name. I wonder if part of her career is have to worry about, do I want to take 2 years off and be a mom and risk losing my job, or give up having kids biologically and just, resign to maybe adoption when I retire? Like, those are some really hard questions to have to answer. I usually don't go into the whole idea of, well, women have it harder than men, because as a dude, I can tell you that there's a lot of things women can get away with that a man can't even try to. But in this instance, it's true, because you're either asking to give up your career or a biological goal that you have for yourself. And in the case of Natalya, the odds of her and TJ breaking up at this point, I think, are slim to none, because they've been together for so long. If it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to. So they're like in the perfect place to have a family. So I wonder how much of her decision not to have a kid has been influenced by maybe she never wanted one, which is completely fine, or maybe it's because she was afraid to have one and risk losing her career. Like, I don't know which one is which. I've never talked to her. I'm just kind of pontificating. But
Or
there,
maybe it's one. Yeah.
no, go on.
Or maybe it's one of those things where she kind of in the mindset of Cornette in a way of like, I still got time.
Yeah,
And then you look up and you're 40 and you're like, whoa, where did the time go? I'm like, well, you've been on main event. Uh, been wrestling on main event. So, it could definitely be one of those things. But yeah, I mean, it's a great talking point. Come segueing off of what he had to say because it really is a thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure, in his mind, he wouldn't necessarily get married either. Because that could potentially slow you down, and we see that a lot. But very much in the business, and oftentimes now these days in the same company because it's just easier. But I think a lot of times we forget because that level of success doesn't come often and doesn't last long. But those things are significant milestones for people because those things are supposed to last well beyond the career.
mm-hmm.
Also these marriages drop, but you got a kid forever.
Yeah.
So, and then that not always easy to get. I mean, some of these women wait and then they try to have it and realize they end up being infertile, which has to be a huge bomb, right? So, because it's never been a thing, or they get on certain things to not get pregnant for a certain time, and that can have a negative effect. So it's a lot of things that go into this that kind of get scathed over just because you kind of want to keep a money uh, pony ahead of the race. And when it comes to WWE, I mean, I can't really feel bad for them. They put all their eggs into the Becky basket and didn't build nobody else to take a spot. So that's on them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You can't rely so hard on two or three people and then be mad when those two or three people are no longer able to give you what you need. That's foolish. I do feel bad for a lot of these women in wrestling because it does take a lot out of you. I would love to have a conversation with someone like Gail Kim or Lita or Medusa, some women who've never had kids but either retired young or wrestled well under their 40s, and ask them how much of this was a weight that they had to deal with. The idea of maybe choosing between being a mother or an athlete, because you can't always do both. Sometimes you can. We've seen it before, like with Taryn Terrell. She came back after she had a kid. Madison Rayne, Brooke Tessmacher, Trish has wrestled since she had a kid, but she did retire to have a family. So she came back when they were a bit older, and after she's recovered from it, because you got to remember, like, you are pushing out a bowling ball through a very small opening. and if you were pushing out a baby who had my head, you're pushing out two bowling balls because I had a big head. I have a big head. I don't think my head's grown since I was born, and it's still pretty damn big. I am an Easter Island head. But it's kind of one of those things, like, that's a unique conversation that we don't often have in the wrestling circle. But I feel like the Becky situation might have more people talking about it. It's one of those things that I don't think it should be, I want to say dissuaded, but that's not a word. It shouldn't be a thing that you actively try to argue against, someone having a kid when they want to have a kid or when they end up having a kid. But it's also something that needs to be asked, like, for you as an individual, what's going to end up being more important, your career or your family? Because that's not even a female in sports conversation. That's a male in the business world conversation. A friend of mine who's a lawyer, left their current job because the guy's like, you got to keep coming in on weekends. And he's like, I got a 2-year-old. I'm missing all these things that I'm supposed to be able to see, and now I can't. So he ended up leaving the job because the guy's like, this is the sacrifice you need to make if you want to go far in this firm. So there's always that conversation of what's going to take priority, your career or your family.
100%, man.
We're just seeing more of it now with Becky Lynch because it's a very topical situation.
Yeah, like in that interview I was watching with Heath Slater, he talked about it because he was talking about when he was going to other places, like just having a potential reduced schedule would be phenomenal because as much as he always wanted to be in, the wrestling being WWE, he had to sacrifice a lot. Like, this is the time he's getting to spend with his family. He's really valuing now because he talked about, like, in terms of those sacrifices, he had to watch I think he said his firstborn's first steps on FaceTime.
Oof.
And then miss recitals and this, that, and the third. And like how many other stories, you know, uh, like that from a lot of performers. So, you bang on the money with that. Like a lot of these people kind of duck off because they've missed so much birthdays, recitals, b-ball games, graduations, you name it. Hell, some of these people may have missed births.
Yeah.
So, that alone is a sticking point and a regret that I don't think even a WrestleMania title victory in the main event can erase, or justify. So, it really is a unique conversation to have because while I do see a lot of congratulatory stuff from fans and stuff, I think a lot of people are very much, and they won't outright say it because they'll come off looking like a lot of scumbags that they naturally are. They very much have that punk mentality of, oh, you left me. You don't get to leave me.
I leave you. But it's kind of, this is going to open up a broader conversation, I think, eventually, because, like, parents in general in wrestling have kind of long been of the ilk of, well, if you want to be a wrestler, you're going to have to accept the fact that you're not going to be around to see a lot of your kids do certain things. That's kind of been the accepted tone. But now that's no longer a necessity due to all the other ways you can provide content to a wrestling show. But also, it's also going to open up a conversation about how parents who adopt have to go through things. Because the general rule of thumb for anyone with the plans of adopting is to have steady parental connection for 6 months. That means one or two of the parents will have to stay home from work to help integrate that child into their living space. And that makes me think of, well, how is Alicia and Eddie going to be handling things once the pandemic is over? Are they both going to go to work? Are they both going to go to work with the kid in tow? Or are one of them going to stay home? Which one is going to stay home? So there's a lot of questions when it comes to parenting in a modern wrestling landscape that we weren't asking 10 years ago. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it definitely is an interesting thing because now we have a lot more to go off of and a lot more examples of people choosing what they want to do and how they're going to do it. And not everyone's decision is going to be right for everyone else. Lita, to my knowledge, has never wanted kids. So her never having a kid is not a big deal. But Becky has always said that she wanted kids. So her having a kid trumps her career. So that's not always going to be a one-to-one comparison either. So we're going to be seeing a lot more conversations revolving parenthood, more than just moms, I think, as the years go on. And I think that's a rather fascinating thing to see happen because it shows the organic growth of the wrestling industry in a modern time. Who says we can't have logical conversation on this show?
Boom.
And now, just to kind of kill all the good buzz we had, Jim Cornette's a cunt.
Thank you. Fuck you. Bye.
Thank you. Fuck you. Bye. I don't care if Jim Cornette goes full hard R racial slur on JTG, bagging on Shad Gaspard's potential demise. I will always quote that line because that's a damn good line. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye. Sure, it may have been said by a borderline, potentially not borderline racist, but it's still so much goddamn fun to say. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Right? Like, am I alone on that one, Marcus?
I mean, look, man, it's not the fact that it almost sucks that it came from him, but you what are you gonna do, right? Only something like that could primarily come from somebody like Cornette. So.
Well, it's like everyone calling everyone brother. We all do it ironically, but we all know who it came from, brother.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not gonna stop using it. I don't care. Hulk Hogan's third outfit, besides the red and yellow and the black and white, could be a whole entire white sheet for all I care. I'm gonna still call people brother because it's so much fun.
I do now. Every time I say it, I do give him the Dinkelberg look.
Hogan. Brother. All right, we've covered every topic in the fucking world, I think. But if there's still one left to do, Marcus, do you have any that you want to get on the show before we say goodnight for the night?
No, like you said, I think we pretty much covered the gamut and got deep, very very deep in the end zone there, in the fourth quarter. So no, I think that's about it. Unless something comes through the wire last minute or something, or somebody else pops up pregnant on Twitter.
This
On
just
Twitter,
in:
something.
Heath Slater pregnant. That's a
Huh?
that's a whole new conversation we would need to have.
Don't just got kids; he have them too.
Sonya Deville wants to shut up playing Batwoman. How about no? Bobby Lashley still wants to face Brock Lesnar. I mean, I want to see it, but it probably won't happen. Let's see. What does WrestleZone got for us? Wrestle.
I love the fact that at this point, Bobby's desire to fight Lashley, he's basically the black sailor from the Moby Dick story.
He's the Black Ahab. Well, that makes sense because Moby Dick was a white whale and Brock Lesnar's a white gorilla.
Big as hell, menacing. You really don't want to see it, but what you want to see.
If we're talking about Brock Lesnar specifically, he's big as hell, menacing, probably likes bananas. I mean, I would love to watch that, even if it's a fucking train wreck. I think it would be, God, I would love it. Honest to God, we need it. We need it so badly. LAPD continues to search for Shad Gaspard, Vince McMahon. Comments online. Sammy Guevara, don't care. Still wants Lord Brock, don't care. Alexa Bliss details precautions that are taking place for COVID-19 at tapings. Let's see. XFL creditors believe Vince McMahon is trying to buy a bankrupt league. Don't care. Martha Hart says WWE's comments are reckless, says the truth is her defense. That'll be a conversation I never want to get into because you got three sides to the whole situation. You got WWE's trying to, get rid of their culpability and liability. You got Martha Hart being pretty much just bitter at this point. And you got Bret Hart being like, you could do so much more for Owens fans by letting, him go into the Hall of Fame and capitulating to some of these things that they want to do because you want to make a lot of money. So, I don't know. It's the only time in the history of wrestling that I remember that anything like that has happened, so I don't know what the way to handle it is.
It's so weird when, the family isn't necessarily on the same page despite having that underlying anger. And even with Brett, because depending on the day, he's very much thank you, fuck you, bye with that company.
He's always thank you, fuck you, bye with that company. But in regards to Brett, I think the thing that always trumps everything is fans.
Yeah.
Brett's always been, as callous and curmudgeon as he's been in his career, he's always loved his fans. So, props for doing that one. So that's all we got. You and I are going to be back on Thursday. I would say let's read the next few issues, the next arc of Why the Last Man. But I have Scoob to review on Thursday. I have the Addams Family to review on Thursday. I got into a movie watching mood. So if you want me to watch something, Marcus, today's the day to do it. Send me, this is the movie you need to see because I'll probably do it.
No, man, I got mad and partially jealous when I saw you tweet that Scoop thing. I was like, God damn it, I got to get the Scoop too. That dropped. I guess the only thing I have over you at this point is I've seen the Mortal Kombat movie. But I'm sure you'll get to it eventually. But nah, I don't really have a movie. Like I said, I need to get the Scoob and what was the other one you just said you watched?
Addams Family.
How was that?
I liked it. I'll talk more about it on Thursday though. That's the hook for Thursday.
So I watched Scoob for Thursday. So we gonna put Wild Last Man off till we got the next or
yeah, that seems like the way because we have Stargirl to review, we have Scoob to review, Addams Family I'm going to talk about. Then we also have I also saw Sonic, but I saw Sonic. I talked about Sonic on the last edition of GameCorp, which I still have to put up. We had the Batwoman to go on, so we have a lot to talk about already on Thursday alone.
Oh yeah, and Snyder haters continue to suffer.
That's right, because the Snyder Cut has allegedly been shown to executives at Warner Brothers.
Just laughing like Skeletor at this point. Just waiting for the official now.
Dear God, please let the Justice League Snyder Cut actually come out. Not even because I think it's going to be good, but because I just want to see all the people who said it didn't exist shut the fuck up. And then I'm going to run out and buy it because I know it's going to be good. because Zack Snyder is shockingly very good at making films. Go figure.
Oh yeah, but he's also doing a Man of Steel watch along. I think tomorrow.
Oh, is he doing it on that one fucking social media app that only he uses?
That one, some of the one that it feels like he owns. Yeah.
Yeah, Vemu or Venmu or Vamu or whatever it's called. Something like
Vero.
that. Vero, there it is. Seriously, just buy Vero and call it Snyder. Biggest user on the app, I would guarantee it. So that's what we'll do for Thursday. So don't worry about reading why, because we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about outside of that. Tomorrow,
Gotcha.
Zach and I will talk this past edition of Impact. So we'll talk about who, the Final Four for this tournament is weird, and I want to hear Zach's opinions on it. That's tomorrow. Same Twitch channel, twitch.tv/WrestlingUnderground. On Twitter, on Twitch. Yeah, that's right. On Twitter, we're at NERDCORP. On Instagram, we're at Real Nerd Corp. I don't know who we're going to go with for our WCW this week. I got to think about that.
What the hell? I mean, she was. I don't think we've done her. Have we done Amy Smart?
I don't think we've ever done Amy Smart. No.
Boom.
She was great on Scrubs and what was that movie? It was with Tom Green. I don't fucking remember.
I was Crank when he had to bang her to stay up.
Yeah.
Literally.
That was great. That was actually fucking fantastic. Amy Smart was dating Jason Statham in that movie, and Statham's heart was, if it dropped below like 200 beats a minute or some bullshit like that, he would die. It's basically like a heart version of Speed. And he fucks Amy Smart, who he's dating, but he fucks her in public for the rush. And like she has a crazy experience, and he has a crazy experience, but it gets him back up. I don't think he finishes, because that would kill the heart rate. But still, it was fucking hilarious. Did you see the sequel to that?
No.
Holy dude, it's even fucking it's fucking bonkers, man. It's just fucking bonkers.
Oh man.
Those kinds of movies just don't have a place anymore, and I'm sad. So we'll do Amy Smart this week for our WCW, and our wrestler of the week, I'll think of somebody. Yeah, that's about it. You can find Marcus on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, at True Penny Show on Twitter, TruePennyShow. You can also find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut. I took some new photos. I'm going to, I think, get them over ported on today or tomorrow. So I'll finally have some new stuff up on there. We're also on the website at realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdcorp.com, as well as on the Podbean at realnerdcorp.podbean.com, or by downloading the Podbean app to your mobile device, searching Real Nerd Corp on the app, and then downloading all of our past podcasts to your mobile device right away. You might need to have a profile set up, but it's free, so don't worry about having to pay for anything. Just got to log in. So all that being said, we're done. So with all that being said, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember to wash your hands. Don't cough in people's faces. Try to stay out of fucking restaurants because you don't want to get the COVID. It's not something to fuck around with. Be safe, have fun. It's Memorial Day weekend, I think, or Labor Day weekend. One of those two is right. That's one of my Achilles heels. I never know which one is which. One of them is this weekend, though. So kind of keep an eye out for one another. Stay inside if you can. Flatten that curve. But as always, and most importantly, watch more wrestling. Marcus, take us home.
Stay inside me.